This is Newsfeed, a look at what people are talking about online, from news stories to what's trending and pop culture. Well, the UK will have its third Prime Minister in just 3 months. It seems 10 Downing Street may need to replace its famous black door with a revolving one. Well, first it was Boris Johnson. Liz Truss replaced him. Will it be third time lucky with Rishi Sunak? Well, he's promising to fix the British economy. Yet 3 months ago, as Chancellor of the Exchequer, he was the man in charge of the UK's economy. Also, the House of Commons' wealthiest man is viral today for that very reason: his money. Well, Sunak comes from a family of doctors, but forged his own path in investments. While at Stanford University, he met Akshata, the daughter of the 6th richest man in India, and whom he married in 2009. She's also a successful fashion designer and director of a venture capital firm, with the couple's net worth $730 million, and that something many people in the UK have an issue with. Well, the Labour MP for East Leeds, Richard Burgon, is calling for a general election, saying it's a sick joke that Sunak, as Parliament's richest MP, would be the one, quote, unleashing huge cuts to public services. This accounting professor is calling on people to say no to another Tory government. He says Rishi Sunak took public money out of deprived urban areas to help wealthy towns while he was Chancellor, and has increased poverty and forced people to rely upon charity. Thomas Hare says a tax-dodging billionaire now odds on to become Prime Minister, just the man to understand the lives of people forced to use food banks, who can't afford heating and face extreme poverty. Ironic is one word to describe it. Nevertheless, history has been made. Rishi Sunak is set to become Britain's first Prime Minister of colour. Born in Southampton, England, Sunak is of Indian heritage, with parents who emigrated from East Africa. He's also proud of his Hindu faith and swore on a sacred Hindu text when he first took office. This user said, the UK really knows how to celebrate Diwali. This year they're even appointing a Brit of Indian descent as Prime Minister. Love, light and enlightenment to Rishi Sunak. After the last 50-odd days, we're so #ready for Rishi. Indian journalist Danthu Ramesh says for 200 years, the British ruled India. Finally, they're going to be ruled by a person of Indian origin. But Millie isn't so thrilled. She says, us Desi kids are never going to hear the end of it. Our parents will always compare us to Rishi Sunak now. Well, there was a lot of relief when on Sunday evening, former Prime Minister Boris Johnson said he was going to stage a comeback. But he claimed to have enough support from MPs to win the contest, but declined a run, saying this would simply not be the right thing to do, as, quote, you can't govern effectively unless you have a united party in Parliament. But this journalist has other reasons why it wouldn't have been the right thing, saying Johnson is the worst thing ever to happen to British politics. He's a serial liar, a proven cheat, and enemy of common decency, adding that none of his supporters should be allowed to forget their complicity. And this head writer on Netflix jokes that the UK is finally able to move on from the mistakes of the Boris Johnson era. We can try to sort out the dire economic position left by the disastrous policies of Johnson's Chancellor, whoever that was. Okay, moving on. We've talked a lot in the past about backed in a corner Russian bear that might bare its fangs and resort to using extreme violence, or rather nuclear, chemical or biological weapons in Ukraine. Well, today, those fears are considerably heightened. It began with this claim on Sunday by Russia's foreign ministry. It read, the Kiev regime is preparing a provocation related to the detonation of the so-called dirty bomb in Ukraine. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Lavrov held talks with American, French, British and Turkish counterparts on the issue. Russian state media then reported that the goal would be to accuse the Kremlin of using the weapon and deploy it to launch a powerful anti-Russia campaign. Well, Kiev was quick to deny that, with Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba saying he's spoken with his French counterpart. They both condemned what he called Russia's dirty bomb misinformation campaign and is coordinating with allies to counter lies and false flag operations.
If Russia calls and says that Ukraine is allegedly preparing something, it means only one thing: Russia has already prepared all this.
Well, so what is a dirty bomb anyway? YouTube has the answer.
A dirty bomb, it's using a classical explosive to spread radioactive material on various radius depending on the amount of explosive used. It is a threat because the radioactive material, once it is inhalated or ingested, can be very dangerous for the health of the human beings.
This type of weapon is a radiological weapon. It is often confused with nuclear weapons, but in fact they have little in common. Unlike nuclear weapons, a dirty bomb does not cause a powerful destructive shockwave. In general, the explosion itself plays a secondary role. But its danger lies in the fact that it is the easiest radiological weapon to make. Its task is to contaminate the area as much as possible. The danger period after the detonation of a dirty bomb is several tens of years.
There's been hysteria about the possible use of a nuclear weapon in this conflict since the very first days. And over the last several weeks, we've been hearing a lot of talk about the possible use of nuclear weapons by Russia. But now they've turned the tables around on Ukraine and are accusing the Ukrainians of preparing something called a dirty bomb. And what a lot of people are saying on the internet is that Russians talking about dirty bombs and whoever is going to use it is all about creating this kind of psychological pressure on people, because even anyone who's exposed possibly to this kind of radioactive material, they aren't necessarily going to die in the same way that somebody who's in the place where a nuclear bomb goes off. Now, that being said, the Ukrainians are saying, no, this is not true. We've heard from the foreign minister who tweeted that the International Atomic Energy Agency would be able to come and visit Ukrainian facilities and make sure that there weren't any kind of radioactive dirty bombs being prepared to set off. What's becoming more common, this kind of saber rattling, if you will, is a tactic used by Russia, according to the Ukrainians, to cover up their own retreats and failures over the last several weeks, where the Ukrainians have advanced on all fronts and continue to push forward, hoping that support from their allies, whether it be NATO, the European Union, the United States, is going to help them get through winter and actually reclaim a lot of these territories where this critical infrastructure exists, including in Kherson and in Zaporizhia and other parts of the country.
Okay, let's talk about Joe Biden for a minute. America's 47th president turns the big 8-0 next month. And people are again questioning whether he's got the energy, mental capacity and dexterity to not just finish his term, but to run again in 2024. Biden recently appeared on NBC and was challenged to address supporters who recommend he prepare for retirement. While at times he did appear a bit slow and confused in responding, he says he wants to reassure Americans that he is in the Oval Office for the long haul.
It could be, I'm a great respecter of fate. I could get a disease tomorrow. I could, drop dead tomorrow. But in terms of my energy level, in terms of how much I'm able to do, I think people should look and say, does he still have the same passion for what he's doing? And if they think I do and I can do it, then that's fine. If they don't, then they should vote against me. Not against me, they should encourage me not to go.
So does President Biden look able to build back better, or maybe even take on Donald Trump, who's keen to make America great again? What even is America? Remember this classic Biden clip?
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was in the foothills of the Himalayas with Xi Jinping.
Gets me every time. Now, this may sound like it's coming straight out of a sci-fi flick, but there are flesh-eating bacteria in Florida. Vibrio vilnificus infections, as the boffins call them, have spiked in Lee County after Hurricane Ian. Well, contracting the rare germ results primarily in fever, diarrhea, and stomach pain. In people already struggling with an illness like cancer or diabetes, the condition is considerably worse and could result in death. Well, scores of cases have been reported in Florida this year, and at least 10 people have died. John Brain looks at how people have been reacting online.
Well, large parts of Florida still have a long way to go before they get back on their feet after the horrors of Hurricane Ian. So the news of this flesh-eating bacteria is causing further misery and alarm. Barbara Malmet says people who survived Ian face this horror in addition to the loss of their homes and property. Food and Water Watch says because the climate crisis wasn't scary enough, we can now add flesh-eating bacteria to the list of threats we have to worry about. Jeff Goodall is another one who says this is all down to the climate emergency. Flesh-eating bacteria thrive in warmer waters, he says. Sort of tells you everything you need to know about the world we're creating with our continued hell-bent consumption of fossil fuels. So a range of comments there on the latest blow to hit Florida. The authorities are urging people to be cautious, but say they shouldn't panic.
South Africa is no stranger to corruption. The former president, Jacob Zuma, has just completed a jail sentence for refusing to participate in a corruption inquiry. Worse still, he was accused of state capture, basically endorsing systemic political corruption. Well, a recent inquiry concluded that Zuma had opened the doors for looting of the Eskom state power company by the Gupta brothers and that he manipulated the National Spy Agency to pursue political opponents. On Sunday, the current president, Cyril Ramaphosa, re-established a permanent anti-corruption agency as part of what he called a new chapter in the struggle against corruption. He says South Africans are tired of corruption and want it to end. Here's how Ramaphosa's televised address has been received.
The president of South Africa took to the podium to address the nation, saying that the lifestyle audits must be essentially effected against cabinet ministers, and those processes must take place led by a third-party independent organization, and also that new processes must be set up to appoint the boards on state-owned enterprises. So let's look at some of those reactions. Ibrahim Fakir has taken to Twitter saying that he agrees with the president that state capture has had a massive impact on the country, but going on to say that it is the president's very own party that has precipitated over corruption and state capture in South Africa. Another tweet coming from Odin Niels that says it is the same president speaking out against corruption, but it is also the same man who had millions stashed under his mattress, of course referring there to the Pala saga that is plaguing the president, where it is alleged that millions of dollars were stashed at his farm without being declared to the Central Reserve Bank. And Maya on Twitter saying the president is out of touch and that the country is struggling with a power crisis while he continues with state capture dribble.
Well, here's a look at what's trending at this time. Facebook warns it'll block news content in Canada, or because the government there has introduced legislation to force the social media company to compensate local media companies. Well, Canada says Meta, the firm that owns Facebook, profits from the work of Canadian journalists. But Meta says news outlets voluntarily put their articles on Facebook and advertise them, and asks why it should pay for marketing that's basically free. Well, a parliamentary committee is reviewing the legislation but aren't taking any more witnesses, something else Facebook isn't happy about, as the company is unable to formally submit a case. Well, if you missed the House of Dragons season finale, oh my God, you missed the shocking family news Raina got about her. Okay, I won't spoil it for you, but it seems some fans spent the weekend flooding social media after the episode was leaked ahead of the slaughter time on Sunday or Monday, depending on where you are. Well, HBO says the leak happened on Friday night because the media giant's distributor accidentally uploaded it earlier than it should have. It's the first time it's happened for House of Dragon, as opposed to the numerous leaks during Games of Thrones' 8 seasons. GOT was the most pirated TV show in history.
So I wake up and the episode's basically leaked. I go on Twitter, I already know everything that happened. It really, really sucks that it got leaked. I just got the whole episode ruined for me via Twitter in less than 180 characters.
Well, it is arguably the biggest date in the Hindu calendar, Diwali, the festival of lights, the epic battle of good over evil and light over darkness. Well, India has the overwhelming majority of Hindus this year, though there have been restrictions on the celebrations. No one's permitted to use fireworks, which have been a huge part of Diwali. The government says the ban's all about protecting the environment and comes with a jail time if people ignore the warnings. And meanwhile, every year and on schedule come the numerous questions about Diwali. People online are making fun of the mispronunciations and misconceptions because what else can we do but laugh at this annual chore?
Happy Diwali! I brought you a lamp. Lakshmi.
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 Leukemia.
Wait, what?
When's Deepavali? Is that when you get deeper?
Are we doing henna today?
Wait, are the fireworks at midnight?
Babe, it's not New Year's.
My mum made some roast beef for you guys. You'll love it. It's so meaty. So what are we eating?
We have samosas, rashmalai, gulab jamuns.
Any butter chicken?
Well, that's how we end this episode of Newsfeed. For more content, you can find us on YouTube and subscribe if you like. Until next time, bye.